Hello there, and welcome to this exclusive interview with GOG. I am Vlad. I'm accompanied by my friend Leo and my friend Aidan, as always on the Grind podcast. And we are joined by the guys from GOG. If you're not aware what GOG is, you should probably check what year this is. Maybe get out of your cave or something. But they have been selling some of the best video games at affordable prices with legal licenses. And we are joined by Marcin and Adam and Piotr.
Hi guys.
Hello guys.
Hello. Nice to be here.
I know I had some questions. I wrote them down because I have trouble with my memory. I'm getting older day by day, and so I had to write things down. Actually, very interested in about your preservation program. I think that's the main thing. I'm not a game collector per se. I don't collect games. I only have them and I play them, and lately I prefer retro gaming, so that's why I usually collect retail games. But I also have a YouTube channel, and maybe 50 to 60% of my content is done using your games, GOG games, and that's awesome because GOG games are Windows XP compatible, and most of them are still Windows XP compatible, and this is my my area of interest somewhere in the 2000s, early 2000s. So that's pretty cool. And what's actually interesting is that some games, some retail games, that were launched in the 2000s, actually run worse on Windows XP than the GOG version. So this preservation program, I think it's very interesting. And I wrote down a question, but now while I'm talking, I'm actually changing it in my mind, because I was going to ask you guys to do like a small thought exercise. And my question was, in the context of a world that always wants things to be delivered faster, if it's possible, cheaper and easier, how do you see the future of physically distributed games, like games on a disc, or like what Nintendo does with those game cards and stuff? Is it something that you think will be like you wish would still go on while you also do this preservation program? Like, do you guys still hope that games will also be sold in a physical media format, like a disc or maybe a game card in the future? And does this actually help you preserve games?
So if I can start, all that we see inside and outside the industry is that we are slowly but steadily switching to digital distribution, and that's a fact that's what's happening. But having said that, we all know that there will always be collectors, people who like to appreciate games, and they will buy some kind of collector's physical edition to put on their shelf. Mm-hmm. Maybe with a figurine, maybe with some other accessories, but there will always be people, even if the game itself would not be available on the disc, cartridge, or anything. With this in mind, we don't know what the future will be, how the network will be 20, 30 years in the future. But still, I would assume that the digital will be like major 90% of distribution, and there always will be like this 10% of people who will buy, if possible, the games in somehow physical format.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. To second what Piotr just said, I do not think that physical copies are going anywhere. I mean, the volume of the sales will be nothing that what it used to be, obviously, right? But in my opinion, as it is currently with music, I don't think that the physical copies are going to vanish entirely, because there is maybe it's like millennial in me speaking, but there is something magical in having like a physical representation of the game that you like, to hold it in your hands, right? Even if it's just like plastic box, it's okay. It's way better than just having it digitally downloaded and digitally available. So there is this collector's aspect to it that exactly that I do not think is going anywhere. There will be still a significant number of people who will love to have those versions on their shelf. Exactly that.
But interestingly enough, I think it's my personal view, digital distribution is way better in terms of game preservation, because you must have in mind to be able to play the game from physical distribution, you need to have a drive. Or there's something that will read it. And even if you have this drive, you need to have a computer who understands the drive and the operating system who understands how to work with this device. So in a sense, even if you have the original, I don't know, Witcher 1 CD, right? So your future computer might not be able to understand what's on the disk. And the copy on GOG, and especially if it's in a GOG preservation program, as without, will always work. So we make sure the build that's in there will always work on modern computers that will be, no matter what operating system, no matter, Windows compatible for now, operating system, but that will work. And within the game preservation, as we see, we have like two major branches, right? First branch is what you see is archiving museum collectors, right? So we buy a box of the game, hopefully the game, maybe some console, maybe some computer, we put it on the shelf and see, okay, it's here. And as long as this console computer works and the CD is still operational, the game will work. So this is the major preservation.
So like the best possible scenario is that you are buying a physical copy with a GOG key in it. So that you are covered on both ends, future proofing and having something physical now.
Because this is actually a great segue to my follow-up question. Since you guys are offering actually a product that's very interesting, you are selling games without DRM. So basically you are doing digital distribution, but what you're literally and virtually offering to buyers is the possibility to make your own physical copy of that game, which is 100% doable with GOG games, because you have GOG Galaxy, which is a great client, and you can install games from there. That's purely digital, it pushes that way. It works like a storefront we all know and we're all familiar with, but you can also download the kit itself. And the kit has a setup launcher, an installer, the old school kind of installer. You double click it and it runs, and you choose the path and you'll install the game. You can put that on a disk. You can put it on a hard drive, or you can put it on a USB pen, and you can have your own preservation program. And I think the best thing about GOG, the best thing it did for this industry, and I've been connected to it for almost 15 years now, and I've seen things change from, we used to get retail copies for reviews when I started writing for the magazine, and then it slowly turned digital, and sometimes you get a t-shirt or something, instead of a game copy. But this is great. You can do your own preservation program and actually have this feeling of being a part of what you guys are doing as well. So giving that option to your customers is what sets GOG apart from every other storefront that does this. And personally, I'm very glad to see this happening.
Yeah, thank you. We believe, going back to that DRM-free aspect, that no game can be truly preserved if it has DRM in it, right? That's kind of like an obvious fact. And what you are describing of a user being able to just download the offline installer, put it on a USB, on a CD or whatever. This is actually something a lot of our users are doing. Right, so you are basically creating your own physical copy out of what we have on GOG, and we also have bonus goodies, manuals, reference docs. So there's a lot that comes with as a so-called bonus goodie that we are bundling with a lot of our classical and back catalog content.
Not only that, but I here can tell you that also, if it's possible, we try to enhance the version on the PC that was never seen before. The story about Silent Hill, or maybe Fire, yours.
Yeah, I mean, with the GOG preservation program, what we are basically trying to do is make sure that all of the games work on the modern operating systems. That's the first objective. So we are moving the thing that you mentioned about games working perfectly on Windows XP, and our version is working even better on Windows XP than the original versions. So now we are moving this to be also compatible with Windows 10 and 11 and have a smooth experience there. And once this is achieved, we are moving into seeing if there's anything we can improve or re-add, in terms of Silent Hill for the room, when there were those hauntings not being properly loaded in the PC version of the game. So basically, the PC version would never load certain hauntings due to the bug in the code. So we went in, found this issue and rewrote the code for them to be properly unlocked and shown whenever needed.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, the issue was quite funny because someone by mistake, I think, entered random 4.
Yeah,
and function, and it should be random from 6.
Yeah, so basically,
so the 5 and 6 never rolled.
Yeah, basically the randomizer was broken. So this is a very minor issue, but somehow it was missed when the game was released in the first time and was eluded for quite some time.
Yeah.
Is this a difficult process? Is it difficult to do this, to get a game and actually, like a Windows 9X era game made for 95, 98? Some of them are, if they're DOS based, I think it's actually easier because you have DOSBox included and that way but if you have like a Windows game, which natively runs on Windows, is it difficult to make it run on Windows 10? Is the process really complicated or?
If I can start, I think we should start by taking a step back and thinking earlier, is it possible to release the game at all? And here Marcin comes in because, as we said in our pre-interview conversation, making the game work and releasing the game technically is sometimes hard but not impossible, but sometimes legal and business pitfalls are the main obstacle on why games are not released. And Marcin here is our true hero and expert. He did some crazy stuff to make games happen, like hire private detectives.
Yeah, that's it's as Piotr said, like releasing a game, a classical game that is no longer available is a journey. That journey starts from the legal and research and business perspective in that area. So there are a lot of problems that we usually need to solve, especially with the older titles before they are ready to be re-released. Licensing issues, split rights, things like that. Like, for example, when we released Alpha Protocol, I'm not sure if you are aware, the game was not available for like 5 years because it was taken down in, I think, 2018. And together with Sega, we managed to have it released last year. And the reason it was taken down is actually that the license for one of the songs in game expired, and that was actually songs playing in like a disco inside. For this is like an element of the game that is probably like, I don't know, 1% of the game, and because of that, the entire game needed to be taken down. So in general, if it comes to the licensing and business stuff, we could probably talk for hours about, split rights between big companies, about, having two people who own the rights 50-50 but hate each other, and you need to basically like bring them back together in order to be able to release a game, or a big company not being able to release a game because the contracts that they had for that game burned down 15 years ago. So there is a lot of stories like that we need to somehow solve at GOG in order to be able to release those games. But once we have all of that, and that is usually a very long process, it literally sometimes it takes years for some of those games to be signed, so to speak, and all of the rights issues, all of the problems related to that solved. That's the moment that it lands on Adam's desk, and he can start working on it.
Yeah.
Your camera is not working.
Yeah, I know. If you can give me just a second, maybe I'll rejoin again so you can see what actually I'm talking. Sorry.
We can use AI.
I'll just rejoin and you talk.
So basically what we have, and you correctly guessed, we use some kind of emulation. It's called DOSBox. We were close with the creators. We even have our own branch. Because of that, we could implement sometimes in games a feature that were not designed with, like cloud saves. If a game is from the 90s, nobody thought the internet would be so big and there will be so much storage while the open. So that's why with the new branch of DOSBox, we could do stuff like that. We also do other types of model preservation, like 4K support, with alt tabbing, and Adam is back, so he can take over.
So coming back to DOSBox, like you said, DOSBox is actually pretty easy because it usually comes to the case where you just need to properly set up the configuration that they have. But there are sometimes cases of missing content that we might miss or that we weren't aware at the stage of releasing the game. Like recently, I think with X-Wing or TIE Fighter, we reintroduced new language versions that we didn't have before. So this is usually what we do. The least we do with DOSBox games, we make sure that we are on par with everything that was officially released for the game. For the games that are on the later era, so that would be early 2000 games, we now have our internal tool that we are very proud of. It's DOSBox is a direct text wrapper that essentially translates all the old DirectX calls into the new DirectX API, and this additionally allows us to introduce or even downgrade some of the functions. So something we did with Breath of Fire 4 when it was first ported to PC, it was ported with a forced anti-aliasing. So all the sprites were a bit blurry. The rendering of the 3D models was correct, and we could upscale it without problem, but then sprites weren't looking too crisp. And to be honest, this is one of the best pixel art there is for Breath of Fire. So we actually did it retroactively. We released the game, and then I think after the weekend, one of our guys said to us, "No, we need this to be like pixel perfect." So he was working the whole weekend to like reintroduce the option to like remove this, and now you can choose how you can play how you want to play the game, and do it liking.
And it was the first time ever on PC, because when this game originally released, it only had those blurry sprites, right? And we added to the game the function for it to look exactly as it did on PlayStation. But this is something that we are what we are doing here is to make, when we are thinking about game preservation, is actually a huge part of it is making sure that what we have is actually not only fulfilling some rules. It needs to look like the PC version. No, if it can be even better, then we are doing it. We are trying to do it anyway. And Breath of Fire is a perfect example of us doing like the additional 10% to add something to the game that it did not have originally on PC.
But also we maintain an original environment for compiling games, so that we have games for such an era, we can compile it with the version of the compiler, operating system, hardware. So yes, we also have this to help us to.
So basically keeping a balance between preserving actually the game in his actual form, original form, but at the same time not doing a remaster. I mean, doing something better, like quality of lives, like you said, maybe some saves game, maybe making it look better than the PS1 version for Breath of Fire 4. Actually, one of our colleagues, he's a big fan of Breath of Fire 4, so big kudos from him. And also, I have a question from Tudor, the Breath of Fire fan. He's curious, for example, for Silent Hill, a game that you mentioned. Do you get access to, for example, the source code to work out the bugs, or I don't know, maybe there are a lot of games that are being named as cult classic or fan favorites. So there are a lot of fans or modders in the community that are basically keeping them alive and bringing patches and making them better and so on. Do you collaborate with them? What's the process? For example, do you have such of an example, or are you keeping in touch with the fans for I don't know, a game?
I mean, with short answer, yes, but long answer, we definitely look into what the community is expecting from us. As for the modders, the collaboration is not yet there, but keep your eyes peeled because we have something coming up.
Very good, my friend.
But I wanted to add that with that, although we do not have mods on GOG, collaborating with the communities, apologies, is something that we've been always doing for a very simple reason. Usually those guys are absolute experts in the games that they are the community of.
They got all the files, all the knowledge, they know what.
So our goal at GOG is, practically speaking, do something that they would like.
Yeah.
So it's simple. Like if we release a game in a way that makes them happy, then our job is done. Right, so this is always our aim, and there were a number of examples in which we collaborated with the community. That was not always possible for many reasons, but one of the examples that I'm usually giving here is this is actually an old release, but our Wing Commander games on GOG, like 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that was a collaboration, a very, very close collaboration with the games community that had, they did an absolutely amazing job in not only preserving the games, but all of the assets around the game. Like there is the scenarios, there, design documents, some, BizDev pitches and stuff like that. They had all of this. And it's all available right now on GOG. They were kind enough to share it. And not only that, we collaborated with them very, very closely to create a version of the game. That was, I think, true for Wing Commander 4 and 5. That was very unique in the sense that it kind of combined 3 different versions and created like the ultimate one. And we have actually plenty of examples like that. When we released Skyrim and basically all of the Fallout, Bethesda Fallouts and Elder Scrolls games, we always collaborated with the modding community. Exactly, we always collaborated with the modding community to make sure that our version is day one compatible with all of the mods, because we kind of realized how important this is. Right, I spent like days modding Fallout, so
it's what keeping the game alive, basically, and also for Doom and for a lot of games, basically modders are the ones responsible for turning those games into legends, basically, because otherwise they would be forgotten or, I don't know, played by a few crazy guys like us, but the most of the I don't know, casual gamers, they wouldn't have the chance to even heard about those games. So that's an important stuff. By the way, just a personal curiosity this time, if I may, but I'm the one responsible with the graphic design part of the grind team, and I'm more visual focused. How easy or how hard is to, I don't know, take like an old game and because the process back then, maybe in the 90s, were different than nowadays when we're basically drawing stuff, concept arts on our iPad or in Photoshop and so on. They were done basically by hand on papers. Maybe some of the papers don't exist anymore. I mean, for concept arts, for, I don't know, wallpapers or art for those games. Is it hard to get, I mean, I don't know, the visual parts for assets for the game?
The goodies. You're
the goodies, yeah.
The goodies, yeah.
I have a story about buying games from Malaysian eBay or some weird Asiatic country to get some stuff. There is still the scanner on which Adim and Marcin were scanning those documents. So yes, we try to track down everything that was published around the game, of course, if it's possible. As we say, we rely on the community, but also on the IP owners and publishers, and ask them always what do they have, what we can use, what we can make immortal on GOG edition of the game. Because we try to have the most complete, the most amazing additions of the games that we ever created. But sometimes it took like doing weird stuff on the internet at night, searching for this edition that never was.
Yeah, it's important also to note that this is a process that never ends. Meaning that we are releasing a game, and then someone is from our community, and hey, I have this asset for this game, I can send it over to you, right? Like for example, Spanish version of the manual, or there was some additional thing in
like the deluxe
one of the
edition
original
that
versions
has
of the game. Sometimes we are actually contacted by the developers of those games, like saying that, hey, I have this. Would you want to add it, right? And of course we always do. There was actually a time when one time we were sent like a huge box of manuals by one of our users for all of the games that we were missing the manuals for.
Wow.
That was a lot of
That's
stuff.
a treasure. You know,
So
going to an old gamer, like, let me search in the attic. So he turns up with a big box. A few days I saw a video, a reel from Apogee, from Scott Miller, and he was like finding like a old box, and it was a lot of Duke Nukem and a lot of cool stuff, that the ones that the cutouts that they were using in the stores. And also you see John Romero when he's I found this one, and he's comes up with a cool version of Doom, or it's like, oh my god, that things existed. That's so awesome. So basically it's not magic. You're not doing magic like something like a click, and it's like scanning, like searching
it's more of a grind than magic.
A grind, right? That's gonna be on our YouTube. That's the intro.
So
nice.
I also want to ask you something, because every time I want to get depressed, I go to myabandonware.com, and I see so many video games from my childhood, realizing that they have been abandoned, and I guess the publisher doesn't care about them anymore. And not all of them are that old. Like, I just saw that Total Club Manager 2004 is there. I remember playing that a lot with FIFA 2004. They had sort of a crossover where you could play your own matches after managing them. But let's take an example, American McGee's Alice. Everyone agrees that it's a very good game.
Flying for the new version for 2 years right now.
What is the process that's involved? For example, you find this gem which has been abandoned, and then you decide to bring it on GOG. Is it legal? Is it business? And once you start selling it, does any of the money actually go to the original creators, or is it just the studio?
Yeah, it's usually, well, first of all, practically speaking, and this is actually something that makes our job very hard, that something like abandonware, legally speaking, does not exist. Meaning that someone somewhere has the rights to those games, right? They might not even realize that they do have them.
Hence the detective story.
Yeah, hence the detective story in which we found out that who has the rights, and that person kind of was totally off the grid. So we kind of hired that a detective-ish to find that person, because that person didn't even realize, because he inherited that rights to that game, with inheritance, and this was just a huge, thing, that this was the license for that game was just a small part of it. Then we were able to release the game just because of that. So we cannot go on GOG and release any game and sell it for $5.99, because the second we do it, there will be someone who owns the rights that basically sues us for doing this. So it's always at the very beginning, it's always a research, a detective work, to find out who actually has the rights after. And the older the game is, the harder is the more complicated the situations usually are. So once we have a good understanding about who might own the rights, we are contacting them. Right. Sometimes we are actually contacting the developers that worked on the game at the time, the publishers that published the game at the time, because right now we at GOG, we know a lot of people because we have been doing this for 15 years, and they are pointing us usually in the right direction. So as an example, when I started to work on Black and White, the person that was helping me was actually the original game creator, Peter Molyneux, who basically just explained to me what exactly is happening with those games and who owns what, and what would need to happen for that game to be released. And and given that one part of the one company that owns the rights is EA, and the second one is Microsoft, like bringing them together is, if there is no
like black and
$50
white.
million,
Yeah, it's black and white.
it's black and white. So it's exactly. So if for the big companies, multi-billion-dollar companies like that, if there is not $10, $20 million on the table for them, they won't focus on it.
Yes, because
And
it
it's
just
not
gave
that
me.
Sorry.
It just gave me like a heart attack, because Black and White is one of my favorite games of all times. I own it like 3 times. And when I heard you talking about, when I started working on Black and White with Peter Molyneux, and I was like, there's a GOG version of Black and White. Was I under a rock all this time?
Not yet.
Okay, so
Not yet. So,
Cool.
but just putting into perspective, the legal teams, the working time of legal teams of these companies is worth a lot of money. So for them even to consider and meet and talk needs to be already spending a shitload of money.
It's not even about the time, it's more about the focus, right? So when you are working in a big company like that, a corporation, it's in order for them to do anything complicated, there needs to be a clear reasoning behind it. And it's not like, they are, bad companies and they want to do things for the community or whatever. It's just that they simply cannot. Meaning that as a publicly traded companies, they cannot do things that are not profitable for them. So it's kind of like written in the law that there needs to be a clear reasoning for them to spend resources on something.
I get it.
So that is actually one of the things that we are doing at GOG in the BizDev, that we are trying to build a case, a reason that is big enough for to move those gears, so to speak, within the corporations. And we need to remember that we are often speaking about games, smaller titles that are 20 years plus old, that are sold then, that when they are released on GOG for like $9.99 or $5.99. So it's not easy from that perspective to build a sufficiently enough case for those multi-billion-dollar companies, but we never give up. And like history shows that we always find a way. So hopefully Black and White will be no exceptions here.
So sometimes we are joking, and I hope this is not politically incorrect, but we are kind of Jehovah's Witness of gaming who knock on the door, and then you usually no until somebody says yes. So
Yeah,
I hope this is not offensive.
Yeah, we sometimes even give them like a complete solution. Like, we did this before you even asked for that. So just let
Salvation.
us
Yeah, this is
publish
salvation.
it. Yes. So it's just for you
But
to
this
pick
is
up.
from Martin's answer, something I was reading between the lines while he was giving his answer. And one thing that I found interesting is that I have this feeling that you guys don't think of yourself as a corporation, because Martin said that when you're working with corporations and these big businesses and stuff, and that's pretty awesome, but that you still consider yourself to be not a corporation. And I think this mindset is very important for what you guys are doing. And the second thing is, I had no idea about this legal ruling that says that the companies, which have to do everything for profits and stuff like that. And I was thinking that this might be the case with what happened with Warcraft 2, for example, because you guys used to sell Warcraft 2 and you had the Battle.net version, which was amazing. I still have it because, I bought it before it got delisted. And it's actually in the preservation program, which is awesome again. But then Blizzard Activision, Blizzard, whatever, I have no idea what it's called nowadays, they released the game as a remaster. And I think I like to imagine that they said, well, I think it would be more profitable for us to pull that game from other storefronts and just sell the remaster version on our own shop, the Battle.net client. Guys, I'm not kidding. I mean, I don't use, and so you don't have to answer this. But
so, while we won't, of course,
is it something
on
in
Warcraft,
between this,
but please bear in mind that if you have publicly traded company, that company has a board who answers to shareholders, and shareholders are only interested in stock value. So if the board does things that does not increase the stock value, this board will be removed by the shareholders. And that's common to capitalism, to every publicly traded company, stock market company. This is always the case, that this company works for the shareholders.
But how did you guys manage to, what are the mechanics behind the licensing? Because the game was pulled from the store, but the people that already bought it can still own it and download it. So was it this hard to do, like talking with Blizzard, and did they need convincing for this, or were they like just, oh no, this is normal, you bought it, you have to keep owning it?
In general, like all of the games that we sell on GOG, because we unfortunately were forced to or needed to the list many games for different reasons. A lot of them are actually coming back after a while because the reason that they are delisted, we try to solve it, and sometimes we are able to, so the games are brought back. And there were a couple of examples of titles like that in our history. So in all of those cases, when a game is taken down, if you already have it on GOG, you keep it, right? And what we did with the preservation program is basically that we said, hey, we committed. When you're coming to GOG, you buying a game. And especially, and it was always the case, but in the preservation program, we are making that message even stronger, that we will update that game, right?
Yeah.
Whatever happens. So that is what happened with Warcraft and with all of the other releases that will have a similar scenario, because the history is. Hopefully not that many, but we see how the history looked like. So in all of the cases, if that happens, the games will always be maintained by us for as long as GOG exists, even if they are no longer available in the store. This is one of the promises of the preservation program. That's once in the program, always in the program.
I would say it's even unique selling proposition. So but you've heard all of the sad stories about us knocking to the doors and things. No, but there was one case when Marcin received an email from someone from internet that was saying, "Hey, I got rights to System Shock 2. Let's talk." And it was Larry.
Oh yeah,
right. So out of the blue, the person we didn't know previously said us, "Hey, I have all the rights."
Oh yeah, that's basically an origin story of Night Dive. It was many years ago. So it's when GOG was very young. We were like, I don't know, 4 years in the market. Like the System Shock was, I think, the game that was on the top of our wish list. So it was always, trying something that we are trying to sign, something that we're trying to get. And, despite our best efforts, we were always failing. So it kind of was that, like this mythical, unobtainable game for us that we will basically spend years and years trying to fight for. And suddenly there is just one guy out of nowhere. Okay, I have rights to systems and we want to release it, yo.
By the way, I got this.
We didn't believe him at first.
Yeah, we called BS on
My
that.
grandma gave me this floppy disk,
I don't know if it's valuable, but here.
And because we this is not an unusual thing because we were contacted by the community many times saying that, hey, I have this physical copy, then you can release it. Like, no, this is not how it works. And there is this guy sending us this email. Then he's okay, fine, just send us any paperwork that proves that. And he sent us everything, and it was like, oh shit. There we go. And then we worked on releasing the game. That was the first. That was a big thing for us. Then we created a new trailer for that game. There was a lot of additional work and love, so to speak, put into that release. It was amazingly successful, and that's how Night Dive started. And they are continuing the great job still.
Yeah.
And what we see is, I think that data preservation will matter more and more. So we will more rarely see the games disappearing. Of course, there will be some that will be gone. But if you've seen how successful Oblivion remaster was, and if you think about the child who was conceived on the launch date of Oblivion is now legally, it can now legally drink alcohol because this game has 19.
Well, at least in Poland.
At least in Poland. So yeah, but for me that so and we see all of these reports telling that more and more time is being spent by gamers in the game older and older. And if you see games like Witcher 3 or Fallout 4 or others, you see that they tend to age slower. So there's not much difference in visuals within this game. So now it makes even more sense to save the code, save the rights, save everything, and try to de-risk your investment if you're a publisher or the IP owner, and try to, after some time, do Game of the Year edition, then do a remaster, and after some time, like 10 or 20 years, do a remake, and try to squeeze as much money as you can out of beloved franchise. And from my perspective also as a marketer, it's much easier to market already beloved and known franchises than the new ones.
So the point is that we can build a business case for the company to keep maintaining those games for even decades.
Yes.
So this is actually something that we are trying to advocate.
Which is not only cool, culturally relevant, but also profitable.
Yeah. It's if that happens, it shifts in that direction, and I think it already does. Then the problem of preserving games will be not solved. That is by far not the correct statement here, but addressed in a way better way than what it is today.
And also, if you see what's happening in general and around game preservation, you could see that more and more people talk about it. There's more and more organizations even on national, European, or worldwide level who try to help. More and more devs talk about it. PlayStation has a special unit. Xbox has a special unit. Electronic Arts has a special unit. Even our friends from Polish game dev community are talking and thinking about it, and they do try to preserve what they create, because ultimately every game creator should want for their game to outlive them, right?
So basically, in a very ironic twist of fate, the digitalization of games, which also made them become, less and less physical, is the same force that also helps save them right now. Because if you have like a physical copy of a game, right, and you put it somewhere in a museum and you can't play it, you just go there and it's like, oh man, that copy of Might and Magic 6 is so beautiful, like the Larry Elmore's cover is amazing, but you don't have access to it. But then digital comes into play, and you have a GOG, for example, and you can go home, download that game, and play it on a Windows 11 PC like that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The realization of that fact was actually how GOG was started 15 years ago. It was Marcin Iwiński. The story is that it was Marcin Iwiński in one of the GameStop, I think,
New York.
In New York, and he realized that, okay, the games released just 4 years ago, he cannot buy. So it's so maybe there is something here, right? So this is one of the reasons GOG was started, to basically, and that was our main value one of the main values at the very beginning. But basically, for the first time ever, we were digitalizing all of that games that were released just 5 to 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was funny because when GOG started, I was a journalist, so I found this leaflet that said that the games from GOG work also on Windows XP. This was a new system. They did, but yeah.
The best Windows.
Yeah, the best Windows.
I agree.
Some of them
I love
actually,
them.
yeah, it's great. It's absolutely great. And I mean, some of them also work on Windows 2000, which is insane. Yeah. The installers, they work out of the box. So you just download them and you double click them and they work. They run on Windows 2K and XP. 32-bit. I mean, I'm not even talking about the 64-bit version. I'm talking about the, but this is amazing. And having this conversation with, I mean, I only had 2 questions, but then 1,000 of things came into my mind while listening to you guys. And what I'm taking out of this is the thing that will stick with me is how hard licensing is. So don't envy Marcin's job. Yeah, it sounds terrible. And one of the questions I used to get on my YouTube channel is, hey, Aiden, why isn't anyone remastering, for example, Need for Speed Most Wanted, the 2000 version? No? It's exactly, it's the soundtrack and the cars. And my answer is always this one. It's not that they don't want to do it, because it would be really profitable for them. But I think
now
it's really
imagine
hard.
FIFA, every player, every club,
exactly.
every league.
However, I would argue that right now with success such as Oblivion, you can probably be able to build a business case that would be strong enough for someone to do a remake of a remaster of the first Need for Speed.
But I think it's
and
really
Need for
hard.
Speed Underground 1 and 2.
Of course, so 2 my favorite ones.
So I think we are slowly approaching a time in which this might actually be possible.
So me and Marcin have a talk on Monday on Digital Rebels when I spoil things up, but we think right now game preservation is a valid business strategy and it's necessary in this industry climate that will even with failures, with studio closures, with smaller and smaller amount of money. So de-risking the investment is crucial. Game preservation is a way to de-risk your investment in IP game creation, especially if you're talking about huge, big budget projects like AA, AAAs, or even IIIs.
Yeah, so to also follow up on that question, like 2 years ago, if someone asked me if a remake or remaster of Need for Speed is possible, I would say hell no. Right now, I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
And there's many, like KOTOR is being remade, right, for some time right now. I think there's a lot of work, and it's nothing new. If you look at Disney as a company who has a portfolio of over 100 years of videos, and they periodically renew the old movie once more. Okay, sometimes they miss, like with Snow White, but many of them were instant success after 20, 30 years. I think the same model will come to, it is in video games, because right now as an industry, we have several age and you have this iconic franchises and titles. And now we know it's important to have a source codes and rights in one place so we can try to remake and remaster the game. And please bear in mind, the year of the remaster was named with the year 2023. So it's already nearly 2 years after we knew that this is something, and Oblivion and other remakes that will happen in the future will just prove that this is a viable business strategy. So game preservation is crucial for this industry.
We have in our magazine basically split it in 2 big chapters. It's the new games that we are covering, and we have a retro part where we have a lot of covers about old games. And beside that, we all me, Vlad, and Aiden, we have like a favorite year. So Vlad, here's an article from the last issues about 2004, sorry. Like being the best year, because we had back then KOTOR 2, we had Far Cry, we had GTA San Andreas, we had Need for Speed Underground, Half-Life 2, Counter-Strike, Halo, Prince of Persia, Metal Gear Solid, and Thief 3, and so on.
It was a good year, man. Yeah, but
a good year.
It was a good year,
Also, The
2007 kicks
2007.
2004's ass.
2007, 2006. Yeah, in general, the early 2000s,
Yeah.
there is this like a theme of videos on YouTube like called "Bro Wake Up." It's 2003,
Yeah.
right?
It's a
Like,
meme also.
I love
yeah.
it.
Yeah. I was curious, wanted to ask you guys if you have like a favorite year that you, I don't know, from nostalgia point of views, or I don't know, if you're thinking on a favorite games or a favorite, I don't know, year when you were a kid and like playing a lot of stuff. What would be that year if you have thought about this?
Man, we're old.
I mean, I don't think about it. It's 1997 because that's when Final Fantasy VII got released on PC.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that was the best year ever for me.
That's
Yeah,
a
I would
good
need
answer.
to think about it to be perfectly honest. Final Fantasy VII would actually be, but I played it on PlayStation, so it's
Yeah, I have.
so it's 96. So.
Oh yeah, there we go.
I remember my first hard drive, 20 megabytes size. So this was kind of revolutionary when I thought I would never fill it up.
Oh yeah.
Really, like 20 megabytes. So yes, I remember when I switched from Hercules to the CG. The first color one, and then VGA, which is like, wow, this is like movies.
I
I
remember.
remember internet, like, man, this was something.
Yeah, I remember those days when we were buying a new hard drive every year, and every year with a new hard drive, you were like, I'm not going ever to fill it up.
Oh, yeah.
And a year later, whoops.
Do you remember when 3D accelerators came? Like, whoa,
Yeah.
Shit, I'll go back when you buy a sound card, because we here in Poland played without sound, just with Covox.
Sound Blaster.
Yeah,
oh,
Sound Blaster
Oh,
was
yeah.
the reach.
I got everything at hand.
But for me,
You can just throw out random words and Leo will have something.
I'm the guy from the
It's
TV
like
that
You-
sells
you-
stuff, you know.
How much stuff do you have there? It's like an infinite bug that you are just
Yeah.
pulling.
but
Everything
if I have
is
to point
behind
one-
his screen.
If I have to point one point in history when gaming was like really revolutionized, I would say the launch of Xbox 360 was this.
Oh
day.
yeah.
Because for the first time, Microsoft said gaming is cool, and they combined it with pop culture. JLR said we are not competing with PlayStation, we are competing with every other form of activity. And
That's
they
my
not only introduced Western developers to the console world with Microsoft, but also introduced internet and achievements. And I haven't seen that big revolution for 20 years right now. I was like madly in love with Xbox 360. I was hating them for ditching the initial Xbox Next idea, so I went to the PlayStation camp. But for me, Xbox 360 was one of the most revolutionary platforms that were there, and because the platform, the games also were so memorable to me. And I was young back then, so
Yes.
Many years.
Should I bring out my Xbox or it's okay? I'm kidding. Yeah, we are also fans of Xbox, and I mean we love everything. And of course, Nintendo. We cannot wait to. By the way, are you hyped about Nintendo Switch 2, for example? Are you gonna buy it for your personal, enjoyment and use it, or you're more a PC guys, or I don't know if you still have time to play?
I'm a PlayStation guy.
I mean,
PlayStation,
I'm
okay.
definitely buying it, but I don't know if I'll buy it day one actually.
Okay.
Because, yeah, I don't see many games there. No Xenoblade, so
You just wait.
you just got the Chronicles one Xenoblade, so
Oh yeah, you're in for a very nice game.
Chronicle 6, and I think that one's gonna have like a 4K mode on the Switch too.
or at least 60 FPS, because we read in an article that they dive deep in the source code and stuff like this and find out that there's a 60 FPS mode. So hopefully there will be like an upgrade for the new version.
Okay.
Do you guys, after hard work day of work, do you guys have time to play and enjoy games, or doing maybe some LAN parties at the office Fridays or stuff like this, crazy stuff?
Yeah, it would be awesome to do a LAN party at the office, to be perfectly honest. Although at the last party we had
Christmas party.
on the Christmas party there was like a LAN tournament.
Yeah, I think we all here play games on different platforms. Maybe not we try to play each other. It's hard, but yes, you need to work in. If you are working as I do in marketing and PR and other activities, and or you're a developer or as admin, you need to know what's happening.
Yeah.
So if you do not involve in games and you check what's happening in the industry, then you're just shitty at your work. So you need to want to do it to be better and better and know what's happening in the industry. So I think while there might be some people in GOG who do not actively play games from different departments, I think nearly all of them connected somehow to game releases.
Even way too much, according to my girlfriend.
Piotr said earlier something interesting about Xbox bringing gaming and subcultures together. Like there was the whole new metal vibe. I still dress like I'm from that time period, and I live according to those very same rules.
Metal times.
Yeah. Are you guys aware of your part in gaming culture today, especially for retro gamers that still have access to your? Do you think of yourselves? Are you aware of how much of an impact does GOG have in this gaming culture?
Yeah,
like
the most not sure, but one of the things that that really motivates me anyway to continue all of that grind that we just described is that when we release a classic game, like for example recently with Breath of Fire, the comments that we are getting from the community on the forum,
that's what I'm talking about.
So this is this is basically the fuel that drives me.
Because picture this,
very important
picture this
part of our work.
Picture this like like a mid-40s guy. He comes home back from work, like he has 2 kids. He just powers up his PC, and suddenly he sees an ad, for example, for a game re-released on GOG that he used to play when he was a kid, a game that he totally forgot about, and he's like, "Wait a minute, this game is still available. I can just play it today," and he goes and he buys it, and that guy, for like 6 hours, 8 hours, or whatever he plays that game for long, he's back into his childhood, And I think that's a very important thing, because retro gaming is about nostalgia, and I think that GOG.com is one hell of a nostalgia machine. The way the website is structured, and it's pure nostalgia. It's nostalgia fuel. It burns like that. And now you see newer games as well there. But when it first started, I remember I was a video game journalist, and I thought, and this is going to sound weird, I thought your site was a hack. I was like, oh my God, this is a fake thing. These guys are, come on, man.
Penguin and G2A.
I'm not going to click this. And I had a friend who said, "No, man, they're legit. Like they're really legit. They sell games and they actually modify them, and they keep them alive." And then I started, and like, "Oh hell, man, this is such a good way to get some games which otherwise I just had to pirate, and stuff like that." Because piracy, as much as some people hate it, I think it's also part of the whole preservation galaxy. I mean, piracy was part of this as well, because some games used to get shared like that, and nowadays it's so easy to get them with a license and feel, good about yourself, is that you own that game. But Vlad's question was also interesting, and I would like to, do the original developers get something out of this? Do they still get, or is it a case by case?
So from our perspective, we pay our royalties to the IP owner, and the IP owner is the person who has a deal or not with the developers. It also depends. From the industry view, like if you're doing a job, you just need to know what happens with it, right? If you are there for just the salary, as long as the project stands, or maybe some royalties after, and how long it will be until you will be given the royalties. So this will be very different, but please bear in mind that we also are, we always are making deals and legal agreements with the IP owners and license owners. And what happened next is up to the legal owner.
Because my argument about this is like, sometimes I get viewers on my channel that write to me and they say like, oh, because I usually recommend the GOG version when they can't get it in retail. They're like, oh, come on, man, why should I buy this? Because none of my money go to the original developers. Yeah, dude, but some of your money go to they go to GOG, which exists, and next year they're going to re-release, your favorite game.
You could
And-
also answer them that it's even more, because for the games we made, there is a lot of risk and a lot of money involved. So someone needs to invest this money and then count for the return of the investment, which often doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So with people who can take out money out of investment, they just won't invest more. And we see it with publishers, with investors right now who are afraid of going to risky process. If you want to see a lot of amazing, unique, tricky games, buy games, because if people want the return of investment from the industry, they won't invest in the risky process.
To answer that question simply, like we are able at GOG to do all of that work with the game around game preservation, keep all of those games alive, solve all of those issues with the publisher, create business cases, spend time on creating all of those tools that in some cases takes years to develop, only because people are buying them. We wouldn't be able to do any of that if this wasn't the case.
And I think the dream list that you have on GOG helps a lot, right? Because you have the feedback from the gamers that they really want these games. I'm looking at one of my favorite, and I couldn't find the physical one, at least in Romania. It's Freelancer. It's one of the top GOG picks, and it's an amazing game.
What is this game?
So to divert the subject, I would say that yes, dream list is really important, but what's even more important is conversion from dream list. So if you have a game on GOG and you have it on dream list, buy it, because then the publishers and the IP owners will see that this numbers matters. You didn't just click the button, you are buying the game. So the bigger conversion rates from the dream list to actual sales of the game on GOG, the more and more games will come back. And this is like from bottom of my heart, you need to do the conversion. So to give us tools to convince these guys to let us release the games you love.
Yeah, and the Freelancer that you mentioned, yes, it's been there at the very, very top on the dream list and the wish list for a very long time, but this is a very hard game to get. We are doing our best, as with many of the games from the top of that wish list, because as Piotr said, this is one of the main indicators that we use to focus on certain things. So Freelancer also an amazing game from my childhood. So if we release it, that would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So good to hear that there are more people.
It's gonna be on the cover of Grind next issue.
We can make that deal now. If we are ever able to do it, it goes on the cover. Like
that's a must.
That would be an achievement. That is for sure.
That's awesome.
When I was on my way to this interview, I went outside today. I was speaking to some guy who's an artist and wants to work in video games. And I told him, it's really nice because I'm going to do an interview with the guys from GOG today. And he was like, what's GOG? And I had to basically explain to him it's like Steam, but for older games, but not necessarily, because they also have Cyberpunk and they have some newer titles.
The Witchers and
exactly. And he wasn't sold on it. And I was gonna ask you, because this sort of made a connection in my mind. Do you consider yourselves to be competitors of Steam, or you have different target audiences?
No, it's impossible to be a competitor to Steam. Please bear in mind that Steam alone is around 85% of the whole industry. So it's a behemoth. We try to be a major player in our niche, which is classical game and game preservation and DRM-free games. We are also we are the leading platform in Europe, right? So we are trying to be the best of what we do. We love Steam, we love these guys, we know that we talk to them. So I think this is a valid case. We know that Steam has a lot of games, has all the big launches. We try to be more picky, have more curated content, give more attention, more love to the titles that we release, produce content around them, talk to the influencers, talk to the media.
You guys actually had like a program once that you can actually link GOG with Steam, and you gave people free, if they had the game on Steam already.
Yeah, it was called GOG Connect.
Yeah.
But every time we were able to do it, that was with publisher's approval to do it.
Okay, that was
So,
awesome.
yeah, and like to shortly answer that question, like to follow up on what Piotr just said, like yes, we are not a competitor to Steam. We have our own niche that we want to be absolutely the best at, and this is a classical and back catalog content. So to answer to that question for someone who is asking you about GOG on the street would be like, if you are thinking about buying an older title, just get it on GOG, because this is the platform that this game will surely still work.
Yeah.
You do not have the same certainty on Steam. The older the game is, the more probable it is that it works way better on GOG.
Once development lifetime ends, the game is usually not.
So yeah, we are physically maintaining those games on GOG, not the publishers. Like the guy Adam and his team, they are literally maintaining 3,000 around games on our platform, with 150 more than that.
150 in the GPP.
Yeah, in the preservation program.
Yeah.
So we are doing all of that work, and it's a lot. So all of those titles, especially the titles in the game preservation program, the promise is that this is the best version of the game there is, and it still works. And it's usually better than everywhere else.
Yeah. And one
As I said, also, we do not publish everything. We do not give publishers the tools to publish as Steam does. We do curated content, so you can suppose that the game that you will buy on GOG will be good.
Also for new releases,
Yeah.
Also for new releases, we sometimes help with porting the game to GOG. If the developer or publisher doesn't have the enough workforce to do that at this point, and we really want to have the game.
And one important aspect, when you try to buy a game on Steam, it says a purchase of a digital product grants a license for the product on Steam. So that's, I mean, in the short term, if I don't know, for example, PlayStation or someone doesn't want to keep the game alive, or Ubisoft, and they will just delete it, right, for the license, and it's gone.
Like, I'm not sure if you're aware that there was this legal case in the United States recently in which the Steam needed to add information about those being licenses and not games. So we do not have that on GOG. Why? Because according to that ruling, if you are offering a DRM-free version of the game that you can download as a customer and store it, you own it. Meaning not, it's still not a license owner. You own the licenses, but still you own the version of the game that you have downloaded. So it's a very different case. So this is actually one of the things we can consider ourselves being a bit better in that area. Well, not a bit, quite substantially better than any other platform out there, because we actually make sure that wherever even the developers are uploading the builds, we are making sure that they are DRM free, that all of our users can just copy them and put them on a USB drive, on CD, and do whatever they want with them.
Exactly.
So this is something that is very important for GOG. This is not going anywhere.
That's why we love and appreciate what Good Old Games does. And I'm gonna do an Xbox commercial gimmick, like this is a GOG here, because here I got the offline, the DRM free installers for every game that I love from GOG. And
Awesome. Amazing.
When I don't know, I know that there might be some updates and I would need to basically update the offline stuff from here, but at the same time, I don't know, being as a 90s kids, I prefer having them in physical form, and I don't know, it's something different, and that's why, I mean, we really appreciate, and I'm speaking in the name of our readers at Grind, because the difference between you and other platforms, you're not just selling stuff. You're not giving us like a library for where we would store the game nicely, but also you guys appreciate everything that you do, and it's that every game that goes on the platform on GOG, it went through your hands, sort of, and you know about it, and you like bought stuff, you scanned stuff, you, I don't know, you spoke with the developers, so you spoke with everyone. And speaking of that, it kind of reminds me what we are doing, because with Grind we are not selling like hundreds or thousands, or I don't know, it's not thousands because hundreds we are doing, but not selling a lot of game magazines. And also the content here, you might see like older games or newer games and stuff like this, but we want to give like a premium product to our readers. It's more like a collector's edition of a game, if you are comparing it to a game, and we appreciate everything, and we are curating, like it's like a museum in a good way. And
we used to say some time ago that while Steam is a marketplace, GOG is a boutique.
I have one final question, because an important part of video game preservation is to have the entire experience of touching and watching the cover, reading what's on the back. And I was wondering if you are also offering for most of your games the files to print your own graphics and maybe manuals and everything that makes this collecting experience nice. Because I guess most people use hard drives, but sometimes we also like to stack our shelves with something that looks authentic and brings joy to our hearts every time we touch them.
Yeah, manuals, we do have them for most of our games. They are basically PDFs that you can print if you want. As for the original covers, right now we are not doing that. However, this is actually one of the ideas that is just floating around, because we would love to do it. At some point, in order for people to be able to print their own cases, even like a full print of a cover. The old cover, the ones that were big,
big boxes.
The boxes, yeah. Sorry, I my brain forgot the word. So you are able to. So my ideal scenario would be that you can just print it all, and we'll be able to assemble the box yourself. This is something I want to do. Hopefully, we'll be able to do it at some point, because I totally
that would
agree
be awesome. Yeah,
that this is a very important part of this whole. Invoking the nostalgic experience, and having it in the full scope with the physical copy that you hold in your hand. So yeah, I fully agree. Hopefully, we'll be able to do it.
Yeah, sometimes I scroll temu.com at night and I find all sorts of crap, including boxes that promise to be authentic, to the Nintendo 64 ones, to the big box PC ones. It's just that I've read reviews with people explaining that they're too bright or they're on the wrong type of material and whatever. And I'm a nerd about this. And if I was to replicate something and create something for myself, I would want to do it as closely to the original as I can.
Oh yeah. That is very important part of this. So yeah, you basically, if we do something like this and whatever we do is slightly off from the original, like our users are there to point out our mistakes always.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
If you want to user test that idea, we're here, guys. So that was a very fulfilling talk that we had with you, and hopefully our listeners and our readers, because this interview big part of it is going to be in our next issue printed, and hopefully everyone will enjoy it. And thanks again, guys,